Houston, we got a problem. Who at fault when you fall with your heart, man? Shooting stars through the dark, who the spark when you're caught in the...
Hey everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Houston We Got a Problem. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kofi. This is the lovely Javia. And today we're going to be talking about respect and the power of our voice. Right? So what is power? Power is basically having the possession, authority, or control over or influence over another person. Another way to describe power is having the ability to affect or cause change. Before I get too far into it, Jay, do you have anything to say?
I just want to say, Kofi is here in Hawaii. He came to celebrate his birthday here, and it has been amazing because we finally get to experience some good weather after his Illinois weather. So I just wanted to put that out there.
It's really, really beautiful here. So, power, right? A lot of us have realized at an early age that our words have power. There's something that in conversation before we started, JB had pointed out that from childhood, we realized the power of our words. And it reminded me of another thing where the Bible verse that says life and death is in the power of the tongue, and those who love it shall eat its fruits. A lot of times when we're growing up, we become bullies. Like our words hurt. We say sticks and stones may break our bones, but words shall never hurt me, but that's a lie. Our words have great influence and impact on other people. And during the advent of social media, a lot of us have amplified our words and our voice. Our words have unbelievable power. I've seen great things happen when we use our voices, and I've seen terrible things happen when we use our voices. One thing that is constant is that our voices have power. We should use them to build up people, but a lot of times we use it to tear them down, to speak death. And we want to talk about the effects of that and how we can change. So Jay, in what ways have you seen people use their voices for good?
I would say when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, he was fighting against the injustice of Black people, the injustice. He was speaking in terms for people who felt like they didn't have a voice to speak. He was looked at as an outcast for it, kicked off his team, all of that other stuff, blacklisted, all of that. However, what he took a knee for was for justice and for equality among African American people. And I know that when other people saw him taking a knee, it was like, oh, he's disrespecting the flag, he's disrespecting the military and all of that. But the military even spoke up and said that they didn't find anything wrong with what he was doing. He wasn't saying F the military or the hard work that they have put in for us to have the luxuries that we have right now. He was just speaking about the injustices that come with the flag, basically.
Right.
And I saw nothing wrong with that.
And a lot of things one thing that people pointed out constantly too was that with Cap, he got the suggestion to kneel from a soldier. But people weaponized that. And this is an example of people using it for bad. Your voices are bad. They weaponized that and turned what was a peaceful protest to shine light on the injustice and they made it a political thing. So now it's us versus them. You have people saying, well, like she said, disrespecting the flag, whatever. So now people's attention was shifted from making things right with the oppressed to now, oh, well, they're just being so blatant disrespectful. Then, they should find another way to protest. But when people do find another way to protest, they have a problem with that. So it's like the goalposts keep shifting. I've seen ways where people use their voices for good, where, again, with injustices going on, but also when George Floyd was killed or any other, like Trayvon Martin and stuff, like people spoke up and demand change. So where now there are making sweeping changes to police reform across the nation. So there are instances where our voices are used for good. And if you want to go back further, you can talk about the Civil Rights Movement, where they use their voice and their power to enforce change, like with the Montgomery bus boycott. I have seen where people use their voices for bad. where when you have people who have a difference of opinion, and none greater than when we had Trump in office, right? Where when Trump supporters were ostracized and alienated.
Great ostracized.
And it was ugly. Those 4 years brought out the worst in so many people. And I have a lot of opinions about it, and I know Jay does too, and we're going to talk about that. So how do you feel people were so disrespectful during the Trump administration, and how we were so rude to one another because we had a difference of opinion?
So you're a Trump supporter, you're a Biden supporter. Why do y'all have to be at each other's throat about why this and why that, and who's better than who's racist, who's a pedophile, any of this other stuff? It should have just been like, because I've talked to both Biden supporters and I've talked to Trump supporters about where they stand on different issues. It's not that they accept racism and all this other stuff. They look past his character to see what his policies were. And if you don't agree with another president's policy, that's fine. That is you. That is your opinion. That's all of that. But why would you disrespect your fellow brethren because they have a difference of opinion from you?
Right.
There are a lot of people who only voted for Biden because they wanted Trump out. Not because they respected Biden's policies either. And it's like, people's voice, they deserve to be heard on both sides. So you can't say that someone is racist based off the person that they follow, based off the policies that they follow. Because there are some people who can look past someone's character, because I agree, Trump's character sucks. But I mean, Biden's character isn't better. And the worst thing that I hear about all of that is that, we have to vote for the lesser of the two evils. Where does that make sense? Because one is less evil, and by whose definition is it less evil? Society's?
Basically, yeah.
So society shapes the way I think. If I don't think like my fellow brethren, I'm ostracized.
Yeah.
Or I'm this, or I'm that, or you can't respect my opinion because it's not the same as yours. Like, how do we do that as a people and then walk around and say that we are so loving and we're so caring and we're this and we're for people and we love people, but you don't even respect the people who have a difference of opinion from you? This isn't a bashful post about Biden or Trump. It's not about any of that. It's about the foolery that you see that exists within our people. And by our people, I mean all of Americans. Not just Black, not just white, not just Filipino, Asian, none of that. It's across the board. There was so much disrespect during this presidency that a lot of people weren't using their words for good.
Yeah.
And you talk about power, there were people in high places who were doing it too. Mm-hmm. Like, we have two presidential candidates who goes at each other's throat and can't respect each other either.
It caused people to go high, actually go low. A lot of mudslinging. And, a lot of people that voted for Biden don't even like Biden. Like you said, they just wanted to get Trump out of there.
A lot of people that voted for Trump don't like Trump, but they wanted something different.
Yeah, and it's just, we just got to a point to where we just couldn't respect opposing views. And it was hard to, because of everything that was going on, and people just were in their emotions. And with the pandemic that happened, it just made it worse. It amplified feelings. And then Trump's character, where he just didn't really care about what people thought. He just said what he wanted to say, and he got on Twitter and said what he wanted to say with his fingers, and it just was chaotic. But again, it just kind of shows where people didn't have a lot of respect for a difference of opinion. But then it's like, I know we're not going to go too far into this part, but where people would say that, well, if you support Trump, you're racist.
Or we can't be friends.
Yeah, and people.
Or I don't support anybody who supports a racist.
And people got cut off. Like, there's people still to this day that don't talk to certain family members or friends because they voted for Trump. But it's like, how do we get to the place where we have just been, just like we drew the line and said, well, if you're voting for this man, you're dead. You're dead to me. It's wild. I had an old friend that commented on a post of mine that said to Javia that he couldn't respect her opinion or whatever. And I had jumped in. I'm like, whoa. We're not going to do that. It's like on this post, when we're trying to have a discussion, we're going to respect everybody's views and opinions, whether we agree or disagree. And it got messy after that. But it just kind of goes to show where certain people out there, when they're part of the mob, if you don't think like the herd, you know there's something wrong with you, and we need to get you out the paint.
So I'm gonna put that into context just so y'all can see what it was about. It was more along the lines of me attempting to tell women what they can and cannot do with their body because I did not agree with abortion. Let me state my stance. I do not agree with abortion. I don't. Do I tell women what to do with their bodies? No. Does it affect me what other women do with their bodies? No. But overall, I can have that belief to where I don't agree with abortions. Just like there's someone else who could agree or to disagree. Well, I agree with abortions and I don't agree with you. I'm okay with that. The problem comes when you attempt to assassinate my character by saying things about me that's not true. I've never told another woman what they should or should not do with their body. God gave us all a body. You do what with your body what you see fit. That's just my stance. So the question was, could you be a Christian
and pro-choice?
Or pro-life. It was one of those, pro-choice. And I can admit, I read the question wrong, so when I initially responded, I had to go back to read what I wrote, because you can be a Christian and be pro-choice. I'm pro-life. I'm not pro-choice. I'm pro-life.
So my question is, well, what ways can we have better civil discussions, and how can we better, like, what can we do to respect other people's opinions without trying to cancel them?
Well, first you got to know your audience. You have to know the people that you're talking to. It's hard to have a conversation with somebody who's closed-minded. They only gonna see from what they see. And you can often tell when a person is closed-minded by the things that they say. I'm a firm believer that out of the abundance of the heart, your mouth will speak. So what's on your heart will come out through your mouth. And all people have to do is listen. So you start off with something small. You have a conversation. If it goes well, even though y'all disagree, then that's somebody that you can have tougher discussions with. Mm-hmm. But if it's somebody who you know not going to be open to you, you're wasting your time.
Cut it off.
A lot of posts on Facebook, I scroll right on by. You know why? Because people be looking for an argument. Yeah. I don't have the time nor the energy to have a discussion with you, and you're not willing to hear what I say.
I know for me, I've shared the story a lot, and this is me being transparent. I used to get heavily involved in a lot of the racial reconciliation conversations within a certain Christian circles, Christian evangelical circles. And it would get very, very heated. And there were times where I let my anger get the better of me. I can admit that, with how certain people took a stance. For example, a lot of the people I had conversations with, or try to have conversations with, they would be okay if Black people were never free. They would try to sit there and say certain things and use scripture to support their view that if slavery still existed today, it would be okay. And that really angered me, of course, obviously. And so we would try to have these conversations, but the more I talked with them, and the more we argued, the more I understood that, for one, I'm not going to change their mind because they believe that they are right, and they're using the Bible to support their position. And I started to see how I became more angry, how I became angrier and hateful, and that's not who I was. So I had to pull myself back because I knew that if I didn't do that, then I would be engaging in quote unquote cancel culture and trying to get people out the paint for their view. And I was like, it's hard to respect that, but it's like that's their opinion. You want to try to find common ground, but the thing is, if you can't find common ground, what I had to do, I just had to pull back out the conversation. It's like, you know what? I'm not. If I don't do this, I'm going to start hating you and being disrespectful. So I need to pull back, and if I feel the need to come back later, I will. But I haven't been back because it's like it's no use. Like you said, you see certain conversations, you just scroll by. You just know some people are going to be close-minded.
What is this cancel culture?
Oh, God. So cancel culture basically is when someone does something or says something inappropriate, and the society gets them out the paint, right? Society rises up and say, hey, try to hold them accountable, but it usually goes from trying to hold someone accountable to canceling their career and ruining their life. For example, James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy, about 5-10 years ago, he used to make some obscene jokes on Twitter. He tried to be a comedian. He said he used dark humor. Well, people, after his success, he became more vocal against Trump during his time, and so people found some of his old tweets, and they said, "Hey, he made some inappropriate jokes about kids and this, that, and all the other." And Disney fired him, because of the backlash, but they rehired him back. But that's an example of cancel culture. Another example of cancel culture is when Gina Carano from the Mandalorian series, she had made some posts about the virus being a hoax, supporting Trump, and a bunch of other things. And people got upset with her, and they got to the point where Disney fired her from the show. She got fired from the show. So those are examples of cancel culture. I can continue going on, with the Karens and the Todds who call police on black people or harassing them, and then then the internet, Black Twitter specifically, finds out who they are and put their job information online and get them fired. And people find out who they are and they harass them. That's cancel culture in a nutshell.
So you cancel people who don't agree with popular opinion.
Popular opinion, or you do or say something obscene. And like I have seen where it could be warranted, but I also see where people go to the extreme. Like you find something someone said 5-10 years ago and they're a completely different person. Like, why are you bringing up the old stuff and trying to get them fired now? And it's just like if someone pulled up, something from your past and try to weaponize it against you, it's like, it's wrong. But people do it. That's cancel culture.
Okay, y'all. So we had to do a scenery change because it was starting to get dark outside. Mm-hmm. You guys couldn't see us. So, yeah. But, yeah, we're back now.
So, Jay, in what ways do you think that we venture into the realm of disrespect whenever we are talking about trying to hold people accountable or with our words?
First off, let me say something. People do not like to be held accountable. They do not. They will fight you tooth and nail if you find something that they did.
Yeah.
But they'll be so willing and so ready to gossip with you about what somebody else did.
Girl, let me tell you what I done heard.
And by the way, coming home to air out all your work business and all that, it's still gossip. You ain't telling that person. You telling whoever has a listening ear. So when do we venture into disrespect?
Mm-hmm.
The moment that we lose respect for the person talking.
Is there certain words we can use, or there are certain, like, when do you know?
You know, you know, it's it's not hard to have a discussion with someone who has a difference of opinion. We do it all the time. It's hard to have a difference of opinion and other people don't respect your difference of opinion. There's a difference between me telling you, oh, yeah, I don't agree with you because of XYZ, but I respect your opinion.
Mhm.
Versus me saying, oh, you wrong. There ain't no way. You wrong. Because it say this, and this is what it says, and this is what's right. I researched this on Google, and Google said this.
I think that's the source of people becoming disrespectful is when you have the opinion that you are right or you're always right, and everyone else is wrong that don't agree with you. And when you can't handle someone saying, well, maybe you're wrong, or maybe we're both right, you can't handle that, because now it's like a blow to your ego, and it's like, no, like, and you just start to get disrespectful because you don't have that echo chamber. You don't have that person or that doesn't agree with you. And I think that people can't handle that.
Yep. To piggyback off of that, it's there's a thin line between respect and disrespect. And a lot of us miss the mark when we attempt to control or exert power over other people.
Mm-hmm.
We all got some crazy thinking inside of our thoughts, inside of our minds. We got scenarios that we uncreated in our head. We got perfect moments to say this and perfect moments to say that. We go back and try to recount stories, or we tell stories to other people, but we make it sound like it was better or worse than what it really was.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of the day, it's more of a taking a look at your motives behind what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Am I telling you this because I think it could potentially help you? Or am I telling you this just to prove that I'm smarter than you or I know something you don't?
That's a good question.
How are you receiving it on the other end? How am I coming across to you? Am I coming across to you as a person who want to have a conversation, or am I coming across to you as a authoritarian?
Mm-hmm.
Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where, oh, what I say is right and you were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like at that point, if you're just doing stuff to be right, you already missed the mark, because you're not helping to teach or to do anything. You're doing it with a selfish motive.
Mm-hmm. And that's important. It's like your motives, like why are you trying to correct someone, or why are you trying to cancel someone? It's like what is your motives? And a lot of times it's not coming from a pure place. It's coming from a place of ego and control and manipulation. And it's like I've seen it happen so many times, and I've seen where our words are very destructive. And I want to ask you, like, in what ways do you feel like our words construct or destruct the world and society we live in?
Well, I definitely think we can build a different outcome with the things that we say.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it takes practice. It takes Romans 12:2, like daily.
Talk to them.
Like in our outward mindset class that we just did here in Pearl Harbor, it talked about this guy. His engineer friends did this test on him. So he had a bicycle, and everyone knows how to ride a standard bicycle. But they changed his bicycle. They made it so when he turned right, his wheels went left. And when he turned left, his wheels went right. So, and then they told him to ride the bike. Of course, he was like, oh, it's going to be simple. All you do is, you think about going one way. It's all in your thoughts. Well, it took him 9 months to figure out how to ride that bike, because he was so hardwired into riding it the regular way, the way that we were taught. His son was about 5 or 6 and learned how to ride the bike differently in 2 weeks. It's the same way with our thoughts and how we think of people and how respect and disrespect works. If you've been disrespectful for so long, it's not just gonna, oh, well, I'm gonna turn respectful and then it's just gonna be it. No, you don't put years and years into this craft. And it's gonna take you time and renewing of your mind daily to correct the deficiencies that are already there. It's why so many people at the beginning of the year, they have these new year, new me, new goals, new this. I'm gonna work out or I'm gonna eat healthy. And then after 2 months, you're gonna revert it back to your old lifestyle. It's so much easier to revert back to what you know is familiar and what is a comfortable and safe territory for you than it is for you to work on yourself to become better. The guy, it took him 9 months to learn it, how to ride the bike this way. But when it was time for him, he went to Europe and he started to ride a regular bike and found out he couldn't do it. It took him less than 2 hours to remember how to ride the bike the original way. So what does that tell us? If you're not continuously putting in practice and continuously renewing your mind and continuously learning to change what it is that you want to change, you're going to revert back to the old stuff, to the old you, and it's not going to change. So I think we can use our words for positive, for positivity, for growth. I think we can use our words to build each other up and to help each other and to work on each other. Somebody has a disagreement with you where you don't agree. Seek to understand them, not to just talk. Seek to understand their reasoning behind it. Seek to understand why, because it could all just be a misunderstanding. There could be something there that you're missing from what they're trying to convey. But because you're so closed-minded and you're cutting them off, you're not listening, it's your way or the highway, it's I can do this, but I can't respect this and I can't do this. You can, you're just choosing not to. But you want this same person or other people in your life to be understanding of you, but you don't have that same grace when it comes to other people. So it's all about perspective and how you see yourself. If you see yourself as somebody worthy of being respected and being understood, then seek to be that for somebody else.
That's really good. I think that renewing our mind and just having the ability to want to change and want to do better, that's the first step, really. But you also said something that was very important too that I want to touch on, is where when people do have conversations, they don't really listen to understand. They listen to argue. They listen to rebuttal, and that's a problem. Like if you're in a conversation and you're having a disagreement and you're just trying to find points to argue against, then you're not having a constructive conversation. You're not listening to understand, because like she said, it may be a misunderstanding. Like, oh, okay, you were saying this. We're actually saying the same thing, but in a different way. And that happens all the time. But we get so focused on having or seeing things our way, through our lens, through our perspective, that it's almost impossible to try to understand another perspective, even when that other perspective is the same perspective we have, or is just another language, right? It's like, it reminds me, I say this all the time, where Paul said that we see through a glass dimly, right? Like we have a glimpse of the truth, but we don't fully comprehend the truth the way that we think we do. And that's the thing. Like, so once you start to really understand, like, hey, you know what? I may not fully understand this all the way. You might have a piece of the puzzle that I don't have, or I haven't considered. So, and it comes, humility becomes a factor because, like, are you going to be haughty and think that you already know, or you're an expert in your field? Or you say, you know what, I'm gonna take the role of a student and maybe listen, and I can learn more from this person that could have another perspective that I could learn from, or they may know more than what I thought I knew. But again, it all comes to motive. It all comes to how you want to humble yourself And but it's like when we talk about people going into a realm of disrespect, it's that disrespect. They just, I think, it comes from a place of pride and arrogance. Um, do you think cancel culture is helpful?
First off, I just found out what cancel culture was. So do I think cancel culture is helpful? No. No. Everything that somebody put out with the intention of doing good, it always goes to the left. At first, cancel culture was what you said, the Karens and
Todd's and stuff like that.
yeah, or using your voice to talk about the fallen and the slain and all of that. Black Lives Matter and this and that. But then look what happened. Look at it now.
Yeah, it's just like any little disagreement or whatever, people are trying to get you out of there. Like one of the main things right now is if you aren't a supporter of the LGBT, uh, you're out. You know, it's like you could say something as simple as, "I don't agree with homosexuality, but I still love them, so I don't agree with it." You're out the paint. Or here's one major one is that when people ask if a man would date a transgender woman, right? And they will say, "No, I want a natural woman." And then people will get so mad, like a transgender woman is a woman, and they're like, "I want a natural woman, a woman that's woman."
Remember that story about the guy who wouldn't sell cake to LGBT community,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody attempted to get him canceled, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't support it, all of that other stuff. He still has his business,
Mm-hmm.
and I respect him for his morals. Even if everybody didn't agree with what he did or how he did or anything, I respect the fact that he stood for something, and it didn't matter if it cost him his job or not. At the end of the day, our jobs don't make us or define who we are. We are ourselves with or without the stuff that society gives to us, the temporal things. But what about your character? What about your heart towards people? What about the respect that you give? Because at the end of the day, the only thing you have is your name, is your identity. Those are the two things that a person can never take away from you. So with all of that, it's sad that people lost their jobs and lost their way of living because of a culture that deemed it necessary to attempt to shut up people based off of their thoughts. If you knew how many people done said stuff in their past about Black people, about white people, about jokes, like about kids, like there's a whole movement like F them kids. And no, it's not really saying F the kids. It's more like you and your spouse are together and y'all got kids and y'all want to do something fun. F them kids. Find them a babysitter and y'all go out and do y'all. Like stuff like that. Like I've seen it where people had their kids dancing innocently. And everybody's like, "Oh, well, she's not a good parent and she's not this, she's not this." Or somebody yells at their kid, "Oh, well, that's terrible parenting." Stop telling people how to raise their kids. Even if that's different from how you would do it, stop. If everybody just learned to mind the business that pays them and respect people, we could learn a lot from each other if we just learn to stop. Stop.
A primary example of that right now, as of recording this, is Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin was or cussing out his son, called him a few choice words, and his son said a few choice words back. The humor in this, though, is how everybody talks about how Plies and Kirk Franklin look the same. And so after the video went out, Plies sent out a tweet and said that wasn't my bro that said it, that was me, or whatever. But that was me on the phone. But basically, but the thing is, like, people were mad at Kirk Franklin because of, you know, who he is, that he's a preacher, and he's on the phone. He was heard on the phone cussing out his son. So now people were, you know, making him apologize, and some people, of course, were moving to cancel Kirk Franklin and all this.
Let me tell y'all something. My mama is not famous. She is a praying woman. Like, this woman be praying like no other. But she will cuss me out in a heartbeat and has done so plenty of times. Do I think she's a bad mom? No. I think she's human. And I think we forget that people are human. Y'all look at all these celebrities and all these people in high managerial positions and the president and this, and y'all attempt to hold them to a high standard. But the high standard is the one that you guys created. Nobody can follow y'all high standards. You know why? Because they y'all standards. A president shouldn't act like this. A president shouldn't tweet everything that comes to mind. Don't y'all tweet everything that comes to mind? Parents shouldn't cuss their kids out. Don't y'all be cussing out y'all kids? Especially when they go to the grocery store. There are people who treat their dogs better than they treat people. This isn't a we're bashing people. This is, we all should take accountability for each other. Because in the end, in the world and where it's going now, we need each other. We need each other. We need solidarity. We need to stand united. Because divided, we fall every time.
I think one of the most important things you said was that we are human. And a lot of times we forget that we're human. And the people that we're talking to are human. And we hold people to these standards. And when they fall or fail to meet those standards, we crucify them. We destroy them. But at the same time, if the shoe was on the other foot and it was our turn to fall, it was our turn to mess up, we would want grace. But we are so, we're stingy with grace when it comes to people, especially with people we don't like. Like people, like as much as Trump, as the chaos he caused and his character was not well received, there was not a lot of grace extended to Trump from a certain side. And even then, when other people mess up or when something that they said in the past resurfaces, as hurtful as it may be, there isn't a lot of grace that's extended. And I know from certain conversations that I've had or I've witnessed that people are tired of extending grace because of the years and years of abuse and stuff that's been going on. This is pertaining to racism, by the way. But again, it's like we're human and we're going to fail. We're not going to meet the mark every time. But we have to continue to try to build each other up. And that's why whenever you read the New Testament, you see where they talk about exhort your brothers, or build one another up in love and stuff like that. But we don't. We constantly are tearing down. And this is why this is what made me look at that verse, life, death, and the power of tongue, so differently. Because it's like the more you speak and edify one another, the more lively they become, the more they believe they can overcome. But if you're constantly negative, and you're constantly beating them down and not giving them reinforcing words of positivity, of course they're going to adopt more of a negative attitude. They're going to be more dead inside.
Especially when y'all be talking about God still working on y'all. Because if God's still working on y'all, that means God's still working on them. If God ain't finished with you and you're not a finished product, how do you think God is just going to finish them? I don't think none of us going to be finished products until we die. As long as we got this little thing inside of our mouth,
That tongue, that evil.
we going to always have problems. Y'all don't know. I be cursing Kofi out. He go lying. He lying. He lying.
Facts.
He lying. But still, like, I don't know. I just feel like we should love more, complain less. We should listen more and talk less. We should enjoy each other's company. Like, enjoy it. Have fun. Live life. You know how many unhappy people in the world? There are people who feel like they have nobody. I don't know what that was, but it was flying by. Can we normalize being patient with one another? Kobe said we hard on people we don't know. I disagree with that. I think we're way harder on people we do know because we hold them to a higher standard than people we don't know. Yeah, we hold our president and all them to a high standard because they're in politics and we feel like they shouldn't say certain stuff. But have you ever realized how high you hold your friends? They have to be loyal, they have to be respectful, they have to be honest, but not too honest. Because if they're too honest with you, then it's going to be a problem. They can hold you accountable, but only to a certain extent where you're willing to hold yourself accountable. They can't be unloyal. They can't talk to the people who you don't like. They can't hang in circles where your name is the topic of discussion. Like, we put all these barriers and stuff on people, and we cut them off if we don't follow. Oh, I'm not going to talk to them because they'll never call me. Or I'm going to stop calling them to see if they're going to call me. Bro, we all busy. I have friends I don't talk to for months and months. But when we talk, it's like we never stopped. Am I perfect? Heck no. I go off on people sometimes. I turned over a new leaf, though. It's been like two years. I did.
Just messing with you.
I did. At work,
She really did.
I turned over a new leaf. Like, I am so much more peaceful. Do I still have outbursts where I want to go off? Yeah. But I have to tell myself at the end of the day, we're fighting an enemy. We're fighting an enemy. But that enemy isn't the person standing in front of me. At the end of the day, we're fighting something bigger. And for all of my spiritual people out there, you guys know what I'm talking about. We have a common enemy. But if we're just going to keep giving in to that and letting him win, we're never going to find victory. And the Bible already tells us that Jesus won. So if Jesus won it already, why can't we win with people?
First of all, I want to backtrack a little bit where you say you disagree with me, and I find that offensive and disrespectful. But no.
No.
But no. I understand what you're saying. Where we are, like, for me, like, no one holds me to a higher standard than myself. There's people that I do know that I hold to a high standard.
Who don't hold you to a high standard?
I said, no one holds myself to a higher standard than me. I am my worst critic. It's
Y'all
true.
don't be hearing my thoughts. No, I'm just playing.
But you know, even like with people, I know personally though, like I do hold people I know to a high standard, but then it's like I give them more grace than I give myself. You know, and
Bro, you would just tell me a couple of weeks ago she was gonna leave me to the streets. Where is the grace in that, Kofi?
That's grace right there.
That ain't grace. Lord, help him.
But you see, maybe I done lost my train of thought,
No,
man.
you're somebody you hold people to a high standard.
Yeah. But like I told her, we was talking yesterday at dinner, and I did tell her that she helped me a lot. Where she helped me remember the humanity of people, especially when it comes to pastors, because I do hold them to a high standard, as in my mind, as what was outlined in Timothy and other parts. But at the end of the day, they still are human. They're going to screw up, and I have to be willing to give them that room, because I'm not defending myself, but I'm explaining. It's like where, because of their position and the responsibility they have, is like, in my mind, they have little room for error. But it's like, but they're going to mess up. They're going to have errors, and we have to cover them and encourage them and help, and help them, recover from their mistake. It's like I was reading in Proverbs today where it says basically love covers all. And it's like love covers offense or something like that. And that's something that we have to work more at, because once we are offended, that's it. We feel disrespected and we're going to throw the disrespect right back. But instead of, being easily offended, just kind of like, all right, and recognizing, like she said, because like when you recognize that it's not the person in front of you, it's the spirit behind the person, then that's when that love kicks in. You can cover that, and you can talk to them, and like we could throw all sorts of proverbs at you, like a soft tongue appeases wrath and all that stuff. But it just comes from a place of love and a place of understanding, and say, hey, you know what? Let's try to get to the bottom of this. And I'm not going to react violently or react angrily, because there could be more going on than what's being recognized on the surface right now. But I think we all have to get to a place of understanding, of compassion, and of respecting other people's viewpoints, even when we disagree. And we disagree, but we also have that respect. Like, we agree to disagree, and sometimes we leave the conversation alone, but it doesn't change the way we view each other. We just come to an understanding and we move on. And that's something that we all should have to work at and be better at.
So I think it also stems from us being afraid to be vulnerable. As I'm sure a lot of people have been hurt by someone before, someone you hold near and dear to you, someone you told secrets to, or your innermost thoughts. They've used them against you. There have been some pastors who took advantage of where you are in life. There have been people connected to you that would rather do you harm than good. Family, friends, associates, co-workers, all of that. And so it creates this wall that slowly builds up. And I tell myself all the time, because I'm very introverted, but I'm also extroverted in extrovert situations. So I can go to a party, I can be the life of a party, I can chill, I can kick it. But at the end of the day, I need me time to recuperate from being around so many people. But I also realize that that's my crutch. Of course I'm okay when I'm by myself. That's because there's no one there to challenge me except me. There's no one there to tell me that I'm irrational, because it's just me. So I see myself in a different light than what other people may see me, because when I'm by myself, I am peaceful. I have so much peace. I have so much love, so much grace, because I ain't getting into it with nobody, or arguing with nobody, or disagreeing with nobody, because it's just me. But the moment I get around people, it's when you become challenged. It's like one of those things where it's like, it's easier to put on a facade than to be vulnerable. But it's so much more authentic to be vulnerable. It's, you getting to know somebody below the surface level. It's you being able to share and not be afraid of whether or not they're going to hurt you or not. People are going to hurt you. We're going to hurt people. I'm sure I've hurt people before, both intentional and non-intentional. Now that I'm older, I try to be more intentional about not doing it though, except when it comes to Kofi, because Kofi just be lying. But but and so yeah, like I have to check myself a couple of times too. Be like, I be wanting to say something and be right there. You know, after something happens, you'd be like, man, I should have said this because this would have shut them up. No, that would have been disrespectful. And then you would have been sitting there thinking of ways that you could have handled the situation better. And me, I don't really like apologizing for a lot of stuff. So I try my best to avoid situations where I have to apologize. So if I respect you already and I have that respect for you, I don't have to humble myself later and come back and tell you that I'm sorry for lashing out or for treating you with anything less than what you deserve or any of that. And that makes me feel good. I don't know about y'all. So be vulnerable, open up, care about other people, not just people in your immediate circle or your day ones or your tight-knit family. Have lunch with somebody you don't know.
It's really scary to be vulnerable, but it's worth it when you can be. Because, like she said, we all, we don't want to be hurt. We all put our guards up and try to protect ourselves from the pain and guard our hearts. But it's a beautiful thing when you can be vulnerable with people. When you find people in your life that you can let your guard down with, and you can share your fears and your insecurities and all that stuff without fear of judgment or ridicule. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And it's highly suggested you find friends that you can do that with and a partner you can do that with. Like one of the things that I was vulnerable with was that we had a dance party, right? We had a dance party.
I literally was just thinking of that in my head. But
we had a dance party, and I danced for fun, like goofy, but actually doing dance moves, I'm like, okay. And I was like so nervous and so stiff. I was very stiff. But the beautiful thing was, it's like I could be vulnerable, and it was scary to be, but it's like I trusted her, and I kind of slowly inched out of my shell. But it happened. But it's like I knew that we laughed, of course, because it was hilarious. But we just got to a place where like I knew that I could trust her and that she wasn't going to make fun of me too bad. Too bad.
Y'all, Kofi didn't know how to Dougie.
I did not.
He was he could barely nay, y'all. And Lord, when it came to doing the percolator.
So I guess I got to recant everything I just said where I said I could be vulnerable.
Well, you told him already.
But I didn't tell him specifics.
Look, y'all, it was fun. It was his birthday, so he should let loose.
Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it. And it was really cute what she did. She had the whole strobe lights going on, and we was getting it in. It was fun.
Were you though?
In my mind.
Okay, so yeah.
So, recap, guys. just be mindful of the things what you say. Your words, they have tremendous power, and you'll get more out of people. You'll get the desired result when you're respectful, when you're kind, and when you use your words in the appropriate way. Um, that's something that we forget. We feel like the nastier we are, the more success we have, and that's not true. You actually become more lonely, and people don't want anything to do with you because you got a smart mouth or you speak your mind. Blah, blah. I mean, you can speak your mind, but don't do it where you're disrespectful. You know,
There's this thing now where people are happy being toxic. Like I see it all the time in memes on Facebook and everything. The toxicity of men and women all over the world. And I've never seen a culture that glorifies toxicity so much. Everything has to be toxic. Conversations, relationships, friendships. Yeah, I never understood that.
do you think it could be a form of self-preservation or a defense mechanism?
I think it is a defense mechanism. I think that sometimes toxicity is looked at as cute. And so if it's cute, you're going to do it. And it is a defense mechanism because you don't know a healthy route. Let's normalize being healthy in friendships, in our speech, in our word. And let's stop judging everybody so much. Let's stop. Let's respect others. If somebody is wearing something that you wouldn't wear, don't judge them because they have the balls to wear it. Compliment. Or if it's really something that you think would help another person, then you say it. But you should ask yourself questions before you say something. Is this helpful? What is my intent behind this? And would this do more damage than good?
Or is it even my business?
Well, not that one. Don't ask that one. No, I'm just playing. But that would tell you a lot. Because if I'm about to tell you something and I know it won't be helpful to you, it's not beneficial, and it's not nice, why am I even saying it? Especially if it's about somebody else. All it's doing is causing strife. And it's causing you to dislike that person on the account of what I said, not because you actually took the time to get to know that person.
And a lot of us dislike people because of hearsay. You know, someone said this about this person and now you can't stand it. Then you get to know that person like, hey, you're not as bad as I thought. You know, what I was led to believe.
And now you got to repent in your head for everything that you once said about this person.
Yep. So you just have to learn how to respect people. Form your own opinion, but I think one of the things that we should really do is just be authentic. Just be true to ourselves and just learn to be gracious to other people who have different opinions. And just, if you don't have anything edifying to say, then just kind of keep your opinions to yourself. That's my big thing. That's something that I do work on now. Because a lot of you notice, especially on social media now, that I'm not as vocal that I have been in years past. But it's because it's like, I feel like I don't have to comment or say something all the time. And then I will say that it's been so peaceful, but it's just like, I don't have to always have something to say. And I let people just do what they do, let people live, and just love them. Because like, there are things that I do that people may not approve of or like. But that's what it is. You know, and we just got to learn how to be more gracious to people. Well, that is it for this one. We want to thank you for taking the time to listen and watch. And until next time, guys, see you.
I feel like this is a TED Talk.
Yeah. Thanks for coming to our TED Talk, guys.